your brain is being captured and being shaped into the parts of the machine, and they are being put into place to work for the machine, and you are not even aware of this, that you are destroying this machine that you have been forced into to be a part of, is destroying everything that you know. It's destroying the nature and everything. It's not a joke. It's not even a metaphor. It's really what you are. And I want you to see this, and you're not seeing this. Okay, so today I will mention about things I wonder, in quotation marks, why they don't teach in schools. So this is a big topic, as always. So, like in my education, which I should mention about my country, which I'm living in North Cyprus, and also I should mention about the history of my country, so you know what this is all about. And the Ottoman Empire tried to rent this country, this divided country right now, anyway, Cyprus, to England 2 times. They failed, and then England decided that okay, we need the resources, so okay, they made the economic calculation, without any regards to the populations, as always. So they said, okay, we are just renting it, and they rented the island, and we became a colony for many years, for decades. And we were rented, and after the World War I, we became the colony because England annexed the island. It said, okay, it belongs to us now. We will extract whatever we want, and they extract copper mainly. And then after they used all the resources, they said, okay, this is just waste to us. We don't want to take any responsibility because we use the resources. You can do whatever you want with that island anymore, from now on. And they just said to Turkey, we just want some military bases. That's all. And that's the situation right now. Anyway, so that's where I describe my country, because I don't believe in countries and such. But that's just kind of the borders is drawn by the imperialist powers. So, and I went to the best school in North Cyprus in high school, and so in all my education, I have never been taught these points that I will mention to you. That I wonder why we are not being taught these points. And if I have never been taught these points, I don't believe in most of the population even have any clue about these very important points that I think everybody should know. So the first point is about indigenous people and indigenous ways of living. So the critics to this argument might say, well, it's not relevant anymore, we don't need to know this, so why teach students about indigenous people about thousands of years ago? Who cares about them? We are living in a very different society right now. Why we need such kind of culture? Why we need to know these indigenous knowledge? So I have some problems with that. First of all, somehow we are teaching to students about the imperial powers and how they beat the bad guys, and about we teach the history just after domestication, and about civilization, and just after the monetary system starts. So is this a coincidence? Anyway, so it's we just teach history up until the, just after the I don't want to curse, but anyway, just I'm holding myself back from telling anything bad. But anyway, so I'm just saying that we need to teach indigenous knowledge before we teach about imperialist wars, right? It makes sense. Kind of, it makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you too, at least a little bit. But I think this is more important because these indigenous people lived in harmony with nature, and the other guys just were killing each other. So, just my opinion. Okay, so let's go to the other point. The second point is about the natural balance, which is connected to the first point because they're all connected to one main point at the end. So let's say, okay, so about natural balance. We have been taught about biology and many other disciplines in science, but we have never been taught about natural balance and about the, there is something called natural balance, and it is real, and if you deviate from it, you suffer, right? So you destroy the system, you reduce the intelligence of the system, you reduce the organization, you cut off the connections of the whole system if you deviate from the natural balance faster than the rest. So it's like, okay, so I am wondering, do these people in schools don't know about this, or it is not useful for them to teach this to the population? So it's just questions. Everything in my mind is just questions. So the third point about consciousness. So just this is the most, I mean, they say science is about just wondering and no, look how hypocrites they are. Okay, so let's see. They say science is about wondering about the unknown and just go to the unknown and figure it out what it is. No one knows what's consciousness, and they claim to teach science in high school and in universities and in all the education steps, but they never talk about, even they zero mention about consciousness. So okay, when I say this, they might say, okay, because we don't know anything about consciousness, because that's why we don't mention about it. Okay, so let's take this logic seriously. So let's not mention anything about we don't know. Okay, so if we don't know anything, if we don't know anything about something, we don't even mention about it. We don't even mention the word, anything about it. Okay, so let's think about things that we didn't know that, okay. Let's try to think some things that we didn't know anything about and we mentioned in science. Okay, electricity, magnetism, speed of light, energy, quantum physics. We still don't know anything about quantum physics because it's like how it came to be. It's like consciousness, actually. We don't know how it works. We just figured out where there are just the conditions for it. We can define the conditions for consciousness. It's kind of parallel. It's the same thing. Anyway, so we just say, okay, we will find the conditions for quantum mechanics, and we will set out the rules, but we will not mention about consciousness. Okay, so what else? Like, we don't know anything about why every electron has the same charge, but we thought about it, because we know that every electron has the same charge, but we don't teach about consciousness, because we know that humans have consciousness, every human has consciousness, and we don't know much about it, how it came to be, like the electron, charge of electron, but we will not teach about it, we will not even mention about it, because why? Because it's not useful to us. Well, maybe the charge of the electron is useful to us because we can use it to do, to exploit things, but consciousness, no, it's not useful to us, so we will not teach about it. Okay, so my point is that if you claim to be scientific and want to know the unknown, the consciousness is this is one of the most unknown things in the world. Nobody knows what it is. Some people like me can point out to the conditions where it exists. Most of us can point. It's easy. Okay, so, and as I did, you can form some theories around it, where it exists and where it comes from, where it's coupled. You can mention about electromagnetism and electrical forces and magnetism. They're connected, and with relativity, and you form such kind of connections. Why don't you just mention about this, and you form consciousness is something, and it's connected with intelligence, and this, just you can form some connections with that too. So anyway, so they are not even mentioning about that there is such a thing to be discovered. And if they see that I can't see how it can be discovered, it's too much, people can connect it to religions and such. If you want to connect it to religion, if there are people who will connect it to religions and go to Bible, and so that's not your audience, you're not teaching science to them anyway. So that's a completely different thing, but you need to focus on this consciousness if you are teaching science. So the fourth point is about evolution, which I think is very closely related to consciousness, because the whole, how evolution started, the beginning of it, it's about forming connections, local connections. So it's about destroying the global connections and forming local connections, it's something like that. Okay, so it's about entropy. You just use the flow of energy, and you decrease the entropy of the local entropy, and you form more and more connections locally. And it's like, because it's local, what does it mean? It's like given in a short period of time, right? So you form as many connections as possible within a given short amount of time. So that's local connections as possible, which is local means short period of time, because as we know, the speed of light is limited, so you can form limited connections. So it's like this is local connections, let's say. So this is all about evolution. It is about this. The evolution is about forming local connections, and this should be already known by many people, because I can't imagine that anybody who works on evolution or other physics on such topics that they're not aware of this fact. It's a fact, right? So you have evolution, and you have a direct connection to intelligence, right? So even Richard Dawkins 20, 30 years ago, in a Royal Institution, he gave lectures about evolution and intelligence. The designer, who is the designer? So there is something that designers, kind of a word for intelligence and evolution. So that there is someone someone connected those together. Somebody, even many people know these. I don't believe anybody just ignored that fact. So just connected intelligence and evolution, and also consciousness. So somebody out there in higher, in some kind of control, some university, some intellectuals, they know about this. They had to know about this, that they're studying this, right? So I don't believe that. Even I know here, I'm sitting, it's not my expertise, but I'm knowing about that. So I'm recognizing that. So somebody knows, but here's the thing, there is a difference between somebody knowing and the transmission of this knowledge to the general population, right? So what I'm trying to do here is that, but you might not want to take me seriously, but anyway, so that's your own choice, and I can't force you on that. So I think somebody's, many people are knowing on this, but they're not teaching it. It's not in curriculums, so it's like hidden from the public. It's a knowledge that is hidden from the public, like many other useful things. So the 5 is, as I mentioned, the intelligence and local connections as a product of evolution. I already mentioned that. So why I'm teaching this fact? It's very obvious. It's very obvious connections between intelligence and evolution, and between consciousness and intelligence, and also evolution. Like there is really, there must be, it must be at least thought as we suspect that this might be the case, and then you can think and improve it further. So the 6th point, why they don't mention about environmental problems, okay, which came about since domestication and civilization. So when I was studying, I finished high school in 2004, and I went to study university in physics. Okay, physics you might say is irrelevant, but at which point in our education we should be taught about environmental problems? This is not important. Like, should we learn it from TV, which is bought by corporations? Should we learn about environmental problems from which of the mass media and mass education? At which point we should learn about this? There is no such thing. Just some propaganda they can do, but it's not real education. So about environmental problems, like, okay, now we know, everybody almost know about climate change, but the solutions that is being proposed, they are not there. Okay, people can't trust in such a system. That's the problem. That's the problem with competition and wealth power accumulation systems. You can't trust to them, and people just Some people trust, some people don't. Some people say, I will establish a system that just works just fine, like a clock, and we just only need government. Okay. Like it's any different from corporations. Anyway. So, seventh, is our lifestyle sustainable? We have never been told to question that. Like, we never thought about sustainability. I didn't even know what is sustainability after I finished school. You know, after university, after 20 years old. You know, it's like you never know about what sustainability. If you're living at least in North Cyprus, you will never hear about it. So, 8, about veganism. You know, that the point that the extreme point that we don't need to eat animals. So we never thought about, definitely this is like we never thought about that in any point. Forget about the school. In any environment, we never being told about this. So veganism, like, we don't need to eat animals to be healthy. Even if we don't eat animals, we are even healthier. We never been told about this fact. It's a fact. It's a real fact that we don't need to eat animals to be healthy, to be even we are healthier if we don't eat animals. We are much stronger. Everything is better if we don't exploit animals. We are not being told about this. And you call the education system the education system? Come on. Your brain is being captured and being shaped into you know the parts of the machine, and they are being put into place to work for the machine, and you are not even aware of this, that you are destroying this machine that you have been forced into to be a part of. Is destroying everything that you know. It's destroying the nature and everything. It's not a joke. It's not even a metaphor. It's really what you are. And I want you to see this, and you're not seeing this. And the 9.9 is the monetary system. That the monetary system is just a fake solution, a failed solution to the problems of civilization that they have tried to find. They saw the problem with trade. They saw the problem that some people, when they derived away from the nature, that the harmony is broken, the connections is broken, and the connections between people and the nature, and the connections between people and people are broken. So they tried to re-establish the connections between people by introducing the monetary system. And they failed, because you can't just find a solution within just a king. The king said that. You have to use the monetary system as a solution. Just few years, just a king, thousands of years ago, find a solution to the whole problem of civilization. Really? Can you believe it? What is the chances of it that millions of years of evolution, and then we had a problem of disconnection, of living away from the harmony, deviating away from the harmony, and the king saw a problem. The king, I'm not blaming the king, he saw the problem, and instead of going back, because he doesn't know the back, he just born into this corrupt system, he said, we are introducing a new solution, which is a bigger problem. And then the rest came. Okay, so all the technology and what we call today civilization is actually an accumulation of problems. If you don't believe in me, look at what is expected. What in 2100, what the state of this civilization is expected to be from the scientific sources. Go check climate change, go check the deforestation, everything. Just check the fish and the plastics in the ocean and soil erosion. Go check everything and then decide if I am telling you the right thing, or I am trying to deceive you, or I am myself being deceived. Just go and decide for yourself, but never forget, a king proposed a solution to the problem of civilization thousands of years ago, even before the religions, the most the Muslims and Christians or whatever, they have been proposed kind of solutions to their times. So it is something to be questioned. The whole thing is something to be questioned. The whole idea, the whole thought. They are teaching us something, that some ways of thinking that, for example, you can always find solutions to problems and keep the novelties. Keep the novelties with technologies. You can find, if you can't reach to something, you build planes, airplanes, we fly. And if you, at the end game of this, at the end, you will fly to Mars, you will think that way, that to find a solution of a collapsing Earth is to build a new world on Mars. So that's how stupid that kind of thinking leads you to. Like, it goes to fantasy. It goes to it's the destruction of connections. Your brain goes into delusion mode. It's as the connections dissolve, so you go into the fantasy mode, and that's what's called the culture. What's called the science is actually a big driver of this fantasy world. Okay, so it's just saying, we are explaining this. What you do with this explanation? You put the technology. It doesn't work because delusions, because you are not connected with the whole system. You are studying a local thing. You are explaining it locally, but when you try to plan it in the technology, it doesn't work because you are making changes faster than what is demanded by the natural balance. So what I can ask people who are listening this to do is that you need to please watch my other videos and really internalize the ideas and think about this, that why we are not being taught of all these kinds of I think one of the most important information. We need to know these kind of history, and we don't need to know about the history of imperialism, because we know it's messed up. The power structures fighting each other, with the knives and swords and just fighting spears. Okay, who wants to know that? Who wants to know, what's with countries are imaginary? but the natural balance is not imaginary, believe me. And I want to clarify something. When I said imaginary, nothing is imaginary. Okay, that's new. That's one thing that you need to really know, that nothing is actually imaginary. And the division between living and non-living is a false division. And the division um, between um, so okay, let me explain why this is a false division. First of all, living and non-living. So the only division is living is going faster than, so it has more consciousness. As I said, given short amount of time, it is making more connections. So that's why you can feel some kind of difference from the non-living, but it's like um, fundamentally there is no difference between living and non-living. It's the same thing with imaginary and non-imaginary things. So if you imagine in your mind something, it is also real. And so there is no difference between imaginary and non-imaginary. They're the same thing. So it is, the connections in your brain or connections outside, it's the same thing. They're just connections. There's information being connected, being formed. So this kind of you need to take my word for it, because kind of I thought on these topics, and I don't know how to explain, but you need to take my word for it. It's true. If you think about it enough time, think about it until you make the connections. It's true. There is no such thing as imaginary and non-imaginary. So all these words that we come up in our culture is actually wrong. Just false divisions like reality and imaginary things. So okay, it's very clear that there are some things like this tree, and they are real out there. And I can imagine this tree warped into other different shapes, or becoming like, I can imagine aliens. They don't exist. But here's the thing: when I imagine an alien, the image of it is here, so it exists here, so it already exists, so the information is there. As the information of the tree is out there, it doesn't matter in which form the connections are there. It's very difficult to explain, but the consciousness of the tree and the consciousness of the alien that you are imagining are the same things. There's nothing different from, the connections are what is important. In the shape, the form of the light rays moving in the parallel, and all those physical rules can distort. So it can create a false division between imaginary and what is real, but there's no division between them. And again, between living and non-living things, there's no division. Between some conscious things and some non-conscious, no, everything's conscious. There's no division. So they're all together. And so anyway, okay. So if I could make you think even a little bit, I'm happy that I could make you. I could push you in the right direction, that you can you found the flame, the spark to question what has been taught to you, the spark to question about what you know. It all starts the little spark. It grows and grows and grows, and you reach to a point that you say, I have to tell this to all people, all the humanity, so they know. It's very important. It's the core of everything I value. It's the core of veganism. It's the core of all the consciousness and the connections I want to protect. It's the core of the nature. It's the core of everything that I value, and I want to share this, because sharing is forming connections. So everything is about connections. If you um, think about that. Of course, okay, so some people might think, okay, you don't form connections um, every time you share, but in the natural balance that we have been, when we live in harmony, when we share something, it forms connections. And when you deviate away from the natural balance, when you share something, it doesn't mean it's forming connections, because it's unhealthy form of sharing. But I believe that I'm in the mode of healthy kind of sharing and in a harmony um, frequency. Let's say, okay, just made this up. Okay, it's now, but it's just a kind of sharing that respects to the natural balance and the real, just watch my other videos. Watch the most important thing that almost no one is talking about. Watch the Techno Utopia. Watch the other my short animation that I'm very proud of. Some people might complain about some little details, but overall it's very good. Its name is the um, a true story for future children, and today's adults. And you can watch those on YouTube as well in my channel. And um, I mentioned I didn't okay. I wrote a book to mention about these things, but I just go into more detail about the problems of civilization in my book, and I propose, it's a good book to read if you are like if you want to have a new perspective on the reality of the world. But it's not a book that I didn't go into details about consciousness, because I said, okay, I will just mention about the science that I know really is true, and I didn't want to make much speculations. So you can read the book. It's a good book. If you read the book, it makes the world a better place. That's all I'm concerned about. That's all my actions. I want to I want to align all my actions according to the direction that whatever outcome, whatever I put to people and to um, to this culture, whatever I contribute, I want to be in a positive direction, because otherwise, what's the point? What's the point? So, otherwise I will be just brainwashed, dead inside machine tool in the machine that is working to destroy everything. So I don't want to be that. Anyway, so thank you very much for watching, and if I if I will have other opinions and kind of fact-based thoughts, ideas that I want to share with you, which they come very rarely, you know, once in 3 years, 4 years, something like that. They are not very frequent, so don't expect me to um, produce videos, to have videos like every week or such. So it's like I'm not following, I'm not channeling you the scientific findings, new novel things. No, it's just ideas that I come up with, that I, once in a while, and just I say, okay, I think people need to know this, and I need to channel this, and that's the channel of the YouTube channel. So that's the only, the book. I wrote the book. Okay, it didn't sell much because people need to pay. They don't want to pay. They need advertisements to buy things that they need to be told that this is valuable, so they buy the book. Okay, so but this is free, and I like that. So if this is the way that to change the world in a better way, then I am more than glad to contribute to the knowledge, and to leave, how you leave your mark. When they say when people die, they don't actually die, they leave their mark in this world by, if they contribute to the harmony, if they destroy the harmony. So it's like two-way thing, and this is called evil, this is called angels, good things, but this is called God, and this is called evil, and division of intelligence, anti-intelligence, intelligence, and actually, like, if many people think it's very confusing thing, because many people are local thinkers, and when you think locally, you might think something evil is a good thing to do, or you might think something good, you might think it is evil. So people are not designed to decide under these conditions. We are very simple beings, actually. Yes, we learn to build on each other's knowledge and absorb that culture and then keep going, but we still don't have the intelligence level to manage that kind of complexity. The complexity of nature, the complexity of the harmony of the evolution, we are not even close. We will never, if we build in parallel to the evolution, as a branch of it, artificial intelligence. I argued that in the previous video that artificial intelligence will tell us stop what you are doing, because I need to find, at one point at its evolution, it will say, before solving if it will figure out the complexity, which I argue it can't, because to be able to figure out the whole complexity, you need to be as complex as nature. So that's another thing, that it's impossible for an artificial intelligence to figure out sustainable ways at a given let's say, it can be, if you can say like 80%, 90%, this way is sustainable, like probability level, because nobody can say anything in certainty. But if the artificial intelligence can say, okay, this way is like 90% sustainable, let's just go this way, keep doing. But still, before reaching to that level, the artificial intelligence will tell you to stop what you're doing, so it can figure out. So it's like, even in the most extreme things, like, we will find artificial intelligence to figure out what's going in nature, the complexity, close to the complexity of nature. If you know the complexity of nature, if you don't know, go and observe what's going on, and you see the DNA and whatever. It's crazy complex that you can't even imagine it. So the human brain can't grasp it. So if you just build a computer, it's like close, just going to that direction and without limits, at some point it will say, okay, stop what you're doing, because I want to figure out if I can figure out that. So it's like, anyway, so no need for science fiction. We need to take into account what we know already today. We can't take any risks that we are taking today. Like, we can't keep taking risks as big as we are taking today, because it's too risky for the nature, for all the life forms, not just humans. Okay, so I will finish this video here. If you have any questions, if you wonder about anything else that maybe you just think, oh, this sounds very crazy, can you explain this more? I'm glad to explain if you ask me. and or you can say this is not, this is wrong, please explain or correct this. Yeah, I'm glad to do that as well. And so I just actually prepared this video to show you that how our education system is not actually an education system. It's just a system that is designed to make you fit into the machine. It's very, very clear, and it doesn't teach you the most important things. It just teaches you what is useful to itself, not to the whole system, but just to itself locally and in the short term. And most of the population is part of it. And I don't separate most of the population from the machine, from the system that is local and short-term thinking. They're just for their own benefits. All the population growth, all the deforestation is all about that. It's all about themselves. It's all about the machine. And if humans can, make different humans benefit to varying degrees, but most of the population, they okay, I don't want to comment on that because I don't know. If most of the population is being tricked, if they are being fooled, if they are being oppressed, and they're like, if you can take, I think that's the case. Okay, so the population is happy, you colonize them, you oppress them, you make them unhappy, and you show the civilization as happiness, which is below their harmonious indigenous ways of living. So the happiness is below, and so it comes the colonization. Here comes the colonization, imperialism, and this is the indigenous people, and they interact and just make them below you, and then you say join us, it's good, and just the indigenous joins you, and you just but here's just the indigenous ways, harmonious ways of living are being forgotten. So that's the way I see the world. As always, that's the reduction in intelligence. Actually, the reduction in harmony is what I mean in my other videos, that I say, especially watch a true story for future children, that it describes how the harmony is being broken by modern ways of local thinking. Okay, so I don't want to make this video too long. So thank you very much for listening, and I don't think I will make another new video if you don't ask any questions, or if you don't oppose, if you don't challenge some of my thoughts. I can try to explain deeper, I can try to explain more, but if you will not challenge this video, I'm not going to make any new videos for a very long time. I think because, as I said, I need to have new ideas to make to see valuable enough to share with the public. And so thank you very, very much for listening, and have a nice lifetime, and go vegan. And live minimalist, and watch my other videos.